Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to episode 6 of D&D Kinda. We hope you are enjoying this adventure as much as we are enjoying playing it. I want to take a few seconds to talk to you about a couple things before we jump into this week's episode. First off, this is the first week that we are introducing characters named after our listeners. That's right, if you want to end up having a character in the show named after you, just share the episode on our Facebook or our Twitter. That's all it takes. Share the episode and keep listening, because you could end up immortalized in our show, and we are looking forward to it. Second off, we want to tell you about a few of our sponsors, Elderwood Academy and Skull Splitter Dice. Both of these companies bring tabletop gaming fans and players top-notch accessories such as dice, both plastic and metal, rolling trays, hex chests, dice catapults, carrying cases, and so much more. All of these products are handmade by both of these companies, and all accessories can be customized and chosen to your liking. Here at D&D Kinda, we all use Skull Splitter dice and a multitude of items from Elderwood Academy, such as the rolling trays, hex chests, and spell books. All of them are absolutely pristine and bring our tabletop experience to a whole new level. If you want to get a piece of the action, log on to our website at 13palmtrees.com/DNDkinda and click on the links for our sponsor stores. If you purchase any accessories through our links, D&D Kinda gets 15% of the proceeds, which is wicked cool. So please, help us help you and go get some merch. And last, but certainly not least, we want to give a massive shout out to SuperFly Games for allowing us to use their app, RPG Sounds Fantasy, for real-time background noises and music in our show. Most of our sound effects are played live as we play, and that is all thanks to the super easy to use RPG Sounds Fantasy app. So get on the App Store and download it for free today. And if you like it, just pay the $1 for all the extra content. It's totally worth it, allows you to upload custom sounds, and by doing that, you are supporting SuperFly Games and in turn, D&D Kinda. So as always, thanks for continuing to listen to our show. We are absolutely flabbergasted by the number of people who are loving it as much as we are enjoying recording it. It is awesome to see the support we are getting. So we are loving what we have brought you so far, so keep listening, keep sharing, and most of all, keep being awesome. So now, this week's episode. Christopher, Benedict, Bartholomew, and Hamilton all stood, appalled at what just happened, as the nobleman was just killed before their eyes. Just as quickly as the nobleman fell to his knees, the party leaped to cover against the inner walls of the keep, to either side of the broken entryway where the nobleman met his demise. There they stood, weapons drawn, spells at the ready, waiting, and as the sound of the blood pumping in their heads dissipated, they listened for the movement beyond the walls, but heard nothing but the last trying breaths of the nobleman fumble and spill over his bloody wound. And as his breath silenced, the sun crested the horizon in the distance, and the sound of the wind blowing through the grass and the birds chirping filled the air. Our hearers were not fooled by the deceptive, calming sounds of nature, and stood their ground, readied and waiting. Hours passed, and the guards lessened. Bartholomew braved the opening, stepped out beyond the outpost walls to investigate his surroundings, but found nothing. Nothing but the grass and rubble of the broken walls of their current refuge. He returned inside the keep walls as noon was breaking, and reported his lack of findings to the party. With no sleep, no food, or even a bit of rest, it was decided that with the day having half passed, they would rest here for the night. Hamilton and Benedict worked to clear a small area near the back of the outpost foyer, as Bartholomew and Christopher dismembered wooden chairs and tables left in the debris of the abandoned building. The wood was thrown in a large pile and was used to start a fire, and there they all shared a meal and relaxed as the sun set in the sky and night fell on the keep once again. Hours passed as the fire licked the cold air that filled the room. The flame would dim, and then Bartholomew would throw an arm of a chair or a base of a table found in the rubble into the flame, and the flame would grow once again, lighting the room, shining light on the pensive faces that stared into the flame. Christopher sat furthest from the fire, saying not a word since the attack on the nobleman. Something about this did not sit right with him, and his thoughts were dwelling on the darkness that surrounded that meeting. Christopher could still see him, his body covered with a tattered tapestry found hanging on the wall, wielding the sigil of Neverwinter, the city that he loved. Clothing fit for his final resting place, Christopher thought. His eyes moved from the tapestry to the faces of the people he was traveling with. Hamilton and Benedict were picking at what remained of their food, and Bartholomew was cleaning his flute. As the fire cracked near him, Christopher watched as the wood and the flame cracked, and the spark raised through the air, floated across the room, and fell into the darkness where they emerged from the sewers. And as that spark fell into the darkness, so did Christopher. His mind slipped away to a place that he couldn't remember. Christopher felt trapped. He was surrounded with darkness, but he wasn't stuck. It was not like a prison holding him. It was not like chains keeping him in place. It was like a purgatory, completely free to be lost in nothing but darkness. Christopher screamed, and as he did, his voice was unrecognizable to him. A feeling of tightness gripped him, and he struggled to escape. But for the moments he felt trapped in this place, it felt an eternity. And not in the way that just seemed like a long time, but in a way that he had aged hundreds of years in a matter of moments, and then all of a sudden, there was a light. Surrounding him was a dimly lit ensemble of metal and wood chain-linked together, and Christopher was confused. He had no body, no feeling. The only thing there was a burning desire to escape, but for all his efforts, there was nothing. No movement. Emptiness. Nothing. Suddenly, Christopher began to shake. Faster. Faster. Then he heard a voice again. Christopher! He was being shaken violently awake by Bartholomew, questioning if he was okay. Christopher slowly returned to his senses, and as Bartholomew helped him to his feet, Christopher spoke up and thanked him. The three of them sat concerned, staring at Christopher. They all took residence around the fire once again. There they sat silent, staring at Christopher. He was just looking into the flame. Moments passed, and he looked up and spoke. He began to explain that when he woke up many, many years ago for the first time, he was a man, and he knew nothing of his life before this. And Christopher opened up and told them the story of his waking.
Topher, your eyes begin to open slightly, and as the light slips in, you then tightly reclose them, and then slowly reopen them as you're adjusting to the sunlight that is in the room surrounding you. You are apparently farting and laying on a hard, flat surface that is causing an echo in your farts. You are laying on a hard, flat surface that you can feel as you wake up. What do you do?
I try to sit up, see what I can, view in the room.
Okay. So as you tense up and start to sit up, you get an inch off the table and then you're stopped. And then you realize that your chest is contained and pinned down to the table. As you look down, your hands and your feet and then across your chest, you are strapped to this table.
I immediately check to make sure my pants are still on.
You are fully clothed.
Okay. Thank goodness.
That's unfortunate.
Not his first time.
This has happened before. I want to see if I can see the room. I want to see what's around me.
Okay. So do a perception check for me.
All around you, familiar faces.
16.
He does see familiar faces.
All right, so as you look around, you notice that the portion of the room that you're in is kind of like circular. And surrounding that like circular wall, there's just windows like that all along that whole portion. As it kind of rounds out and kind of crests to like the furthest point before it would start going back inwards to like complete the circle, there's an offset stone pattern and it kind of flattens out and it becomes like more of a rectangular and finishes like a rectangular room. The walls and the floor are all made of like an offset stone kind of feel, so it's not like polished, it's just like stone mortar. So the room is very makeshift.
Does it feel like a...
You don't know how it feels, you're still on the table.
No. I'm saying like just like from what I can see, can like as far as does it look like a laboratory type thing where people do experiments on people, or does it look like a torture chamber, or can I tell that?
I'll finish explaining the room and you can make your determination. And if you still feel like you need to ask that question, you can. Because 16 is more than enough to get the whole feel of the room.
Oh, okay, cool.
So as you start to notice what the room is made of, and then it kind of rounds out, it's made of like this offset, like deep gray stone. And then beyond that, out of the room, you can see that it obviously carries out of this room into more. So this room is not the only part of this building. The room is rounded, and that's where the table sets that you're on, which is kind of in the middle of this rounded section, and then it proceeds to transform into the rectangular shape that I explained. And at that side of the room, you see someone standing with his back to you, and he's looking down at something on the table, and he is completely unaware that you're conscious, and he looks kind of busy. Around you are tables, there are tapestries hanging on the walls, there are suits of armor, there's just a ton of stuff, random assortment of items everywhere, books and tapestries and papers and just all kinds of knickknacks just kind of laying all over the place.
Are there any paddywhacks?
Go away, Jim.
No, but outside you hear someone giving a dog a bone.
Oh, okay.
Can I try to like get out of these restraints? Like,
Okay, so
Are
go
you
ahead
trying
and
to
give
go
me
home?
give me a strength check.
get out of here.
Give me
Because you're old.
He's rolling too. This is so perfect. Yeah, roll those dice. See if you can get home.
And roll home. You old piece of shit.
What'd you got there?
I don't fucking know.
That's a strength check.
Apparently, it's a knick-knack paddywhack. It's a 14.
Okay, so you go to pull and sit up, and you yank your hands and feet like as hard as you can, and as you do, you kind of feel like the restraints are giving way, and they pull up, but then you realize they just tightened even more, and you are now even further restrained in the hands and feet, and then you just kind of let back down on the table because you realize that this thing is not giving way. So as you do this, the individual who is in the room hears these restraints get tension on the restraints, and then looks back and sees you. So as he turns around, you realize that this person is an elf. Very tall, 6, close to probably 7 feet tall.
Orlando Bloom size.
Orlando Bloom was only like 6 feet. So get your facts straight. All right. This person is it is an elf, and as you see them, they have this very reverent and commanding presence for respect. But he doesn't appear to be of harm to you. He just kind of slowly walks over to you, and it doesn't look like he has any intentions of hurting you. Although you feel, I'm assuming, kind of like, why am I tied up? So he walks over to you and he leans over top of you and kind of looks at you in the eye, and kind of he puts his hand on your face and kind of like pulls your head side to side, kind of looking at you to make sure, like, you know, since you're conscious, if you're like able to tell what's going on, are you cognizant of what's happening? So he kind of grabs your face by the chin and around your cheeks and kind of tilts your head side to side and watches as your eyes move.
I try to bite his finger.
Okay. Man, what kind of check would that even be? Like, it would
Dexterity.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Is that going to do anything like gums on finger? I feel like that,
I was about to say it's a dentures
that
check.
will really do.
Gums on finger. Okay, yeah, dexterity check for me.
Did you forget your dentacil
No,
this morning?
that's a 21.
Oh shit! He definitely put his dentacil
Okay.
on this morning.
So,
Fix a dent. FT
so he puts his hand on your face, and he kind of moves your hand back or your face back and forth, kind of looking at you. And as he like moves his hand off your face, you like reach up and you bite his finger, and it like is deep in his finger, and it like draws blood. And like as you do, he like puts his hand on your forehead. And then like reaches down and clenches your jaw and starts to like squeeze to the point it is immensely painful, and there's nothing you can do about it. And he says, "You either let go of my finger or you will have no jaw." And you are drawing blood. Like,
I would
you
say
can
something, but his
feel-
finger's in my mouth.
This
So
is
do you-
jaw dropping.
Do you let go or do you continue to bite down?
I would sound really funny without a jaw. I already sound really funny anyway. I let up a little bit,
Okay.
but whenever I let up, I don't like just like open my mouth. I like and suck on his finger as I pull
that's
it out.
really
Give him a
strange.
nice lick.
Did you do that again? Get closer. I want to hear.
I
Like,
don't
want to
hear that again. Oh god.
Oh yeah.
No.
There it is.
Man, I really didn't want to record half chub.
I'll be
right
back
now,
in
but I
15
guess I-
minutes,
Yeah,
guys.
I'll see ya.
Chub, I'm full on, baby. All right, so
I've been hard since birth.
you should probably get that checked out by a doctor. They say 4 hours, but probably 80 years is a little too quick.
I did, but they said that since it's so small and it's just the head,
It's
That
not
is
anything
normal.
to worry about.
So are you sure it's Centrum Silver and
Is
not?
that why your bones are so brittle?
I don't really get the correlation there, but okay.
I don't know. I was reaching because I just want to call you old.
Just
Preaching.
say it.
Keep preaching.
Say you're old. So as you kind of let up and you're like sucking on his finger, he like quickly jerks his hand out of your mouth, and like his finger is it's bleeding, and so he like pulls it back. And then like wipes the blood off, and then like reaches down and like rips cloth off the bottom of his shirt and like wraps up his finger, and then he looks down at you and says, he goes, I understand that you're right, but believe me, I mean you no harm. I found your body in a very precarious place, and believe me, we had no idea who you are, what you were doing there. So forgive me for taking preventative measures. You may have been... Can I trust you to let you out of these restraints? This is where you answer the question.
Yeah, I know. Well, Jed went to the fucking microphone, so I was going to wait until he, did what he was going to do, so I didn't get interrupted mid.
All right, Jed,
Well,
shut your fucking mouth.
I'm just wondering, like, they were scared enough of you to tie you to a table, and then as soon as you wake up, he's like, "Hey, man, is it cool if I take these off?"
That's definitely not what I said, but okay. Like, he just wanted to make sure this guy wasn't like this horrible person.
Well, I
Like,
mean, he did just bite his finger.
yeah, but I mean, the guy had his hands on his
His
face.
defense
like,
mechanism.
The
man.
first
Come
thing he
on.
did
Fuck
whenever
outta
he
here.
woke up was try to bite his
Yeah.
finger.
Yeah,
Clearly,
I mean,
this man
shit,
has
like-
Alzheimer's. Like,
yeah, but this I
If
also
you wake up and
explained-
you can't remember anything, like, like if somebody's like moving your head around and shit and you're strapped down, you're going to try to like fight.
so what you're saying
I
is when
also-
I wake you up in the morning, I need to do it like from the other side of the room.
I also
Maybe
explained
because
that
my
this-
cum shots are pretty fucking full.
God!
I ejaculate whenever I wake up.
Jesus Christ!
I said that this person they're a high elf. They're very tall. They don't fear you. They're just taking preventive measures
Yeah. No, I
for
yeah.
unexplained reasons. So he asks if he takes off the restraints, if he will not have to take drastic measures to restrain you again. And he's like, he asked you if you were okay with that. If you're going to be fine if he takes these things off, or will he have to kick your ass, essentially?
Well, if you take the restraints off, can I trust you to where I don't have to put you in these restraints?
He gets kind of a smirk on his face and leans down and starts to loosen the restraints on your hands, and then goes down to your feet and then unstraps your chest and just kind of like lets you go, and then starts to walk away from the table, facing you still, but like slowly backing up. So he lets you up.
I sit up and like kind of scoot to the edge of the table and kind of collect myself there and stretch,
Okay.
kind of work out the, the brittle bones, I guess. Get there before Ted does.
So as you were like sitting up and you're starting to get an idea for, you saw this person, but like you didn't get an idea of you're now up close to him, and you're standing or sitting up straight or however.
Well, I know that he wipes with his left hand. I could taste it.
Oh God.
My God.
Jesus Christ.
So this individual is very tall, 6'5", 6'7", like very, very tall, very slender, but he has a very heavy stature, very muscular individual. Not someone you would want to mess with. Like, he's a big elf. So you look around the room as you start to sit up, and you start to see all these books and weapons and tapestries and flags and all this various stuff. And as you look around, you start to notice a commonality with them. All of these things in this room have this shimmering blue infinity symbol just emblazoned up on just everything variously in different places. So as you see this individual, he's wearing a long white robe that hangs to the floor. And underneath of his robe, his undergarments it's like black clothing from his neck all the way down to his feet, including his shoes. And then hanging in the corner of the room is a suit of armor, with that same blue infinity symbol right up on the chest. And then there's also a shield on the floor next to him that has this big blue shimmering infinity symbol right in the center of the shield. So this is like the picture that you're getting of this room as you are looking around. So what's going on?
So I want to ask him, be like, so what is your name? What is this place? What is this? I see this infinity, this symbol on everything. I don't know what's going on.
So he looks at you and explains. He starts and says, well, it's kind of it's a long story. We were out in the Forbidden Forest, and I know it's kind of, are you familiar with the Forbidden Forest at all? I know nothing. We don't know anything about you. Why would anyone be there, let alone sleeping there?
I have no memory. I don't remember anything past from whenever I woke up just now.
So he kind of stops, and like you can see him like poring over his thoughts, like he's looking back and forth like very quickly, and then like his head starts to like shake slightly, and it's almost like he's coming to a realization, and he's like, that is answers all of my questions. And he goes back to a book that's laying on the table, and he starts to flip through a couple pages back and forth as if he's furiously looking for something. And then he puts his finger on a page on the book, and he starts to like look back and forth and back and forth. And then he turns back to you and comes up to you, and he puts his hand on your shoulders, but not in the sense that he's trying to like touch you. He like pulls his hands up and starts to like feel the clothes that you're wearing. And then he like steps back and starts to look at you. and he kind of shakes his head up and down as he's like looking at you, and he says, "The clothing and the armor we found near your body, they match patterns of civilizations hundreds of years ago. Was this handed down to you as a family heirloom, or where did you get this?"
I don't know. I don't have any.
You have
I'm
no
trying.
recollection of your thoughts prior to you waking up in this room.
I'm sorry, but I do not.
So he starts to shake his head again and looks back and forth. And as he does this, he goes back and just kind of like puts his hands on the table and kind of like hangs his head. And he turns around and he says, "My name is Christian Alexander. People call me Chrysalix for short. Which, by the way, listeners, this is named after Alex Butera, who left us a killer review on the Apple Podcasts app. Do the same. You will end up, the chance of ending up as a character on the show. Shout out to you, Alex Butera. Thank you, sir. So he goes back to a table and he's like, keeps pouring through all these books, and every book that he's picked up, you've noticed that there's this shimmering blue infinity symbol on it. And as he is going back and forth through these books, there's a knock on the door, and he puts his hand on your chest and he shoves you behind the door.
Behind what door?
The door to the room that you're in.
So it's not one big open. I thought it was like a
There is
circle okay.
Yeah, it's a circular room where your
there's-
table was, and the back part of the room where there was like a rectangle was like the rest of the room. The back of that, there was a door to the room.
Okay, so we're clear back there.
Right.
Okay.
At this point. So he kind of puts his hand on your chest and like shoves you behind the door, and then you are just standing there. As you hear the knock on the door, you see him shove you behind the door, and you get the vibe, I'm assuming you get the vibe, that he does not want people to know that you're here.
Kinky.
And then Chrysalix reaches out and opens up the door. And you are standing kind of with your back to the wall where the door kind of folds open. And you can see slightly through the crack on the door there. So go ahead and make a perception check as you're kind of like trying to see what's going on the other side of it.
That was a 1. It was not.
That was a 7, apparently.
Yeah, it was a 7. It would be an 11.
Okay. So as you kind of like attempt to peer out, you notice there are 2 individuals outside the door. And prior to there be any kind of them saying anything, you notice that they are orcs. They have like a deep gray, brown tint to their skin. They have sharp ears and sharp teeth, and they are vigilantly attuned to what this individual who opened the door in front of them, which is this elf that towers over them, is saying. When they open the door, they say, "Chrysalix, good day to you." And then Chrysalix nods, and they say, "We have received word that there has been something that has been taken from the Forbidden Forest to this location. Would you know anything of this? As you know, it is defying law of Faerun to remove anything, no matter what it is, from this place." And Chrysalix looks at them and says, "My good gentlemen, feel free to look around. My lab, if you feel the need to. There is nothing here that I am trying to hide." And they have no reason to believe that he is attempting to hide anything. As they kind of, but they do their due diligence. They step into the room as Chrysalix steps aside, and as they push the door open for them to enter, because they're broad boys, like they
Big old boys.
the orcs are walking around the room, just kind of doing a quick spot check. They don't, like I said, they don't feel like there's anything weird going on. So they kind of just like walk around, and as they're walking out, they look up at Chrysalix and they're like, "Your devotion to Mishkal is notable. There's things all over. Are these all relics of his church? What is this?" And Chrysalix looks at him and says, "These are things that I have blessed with the light of Mishkal and the things that he has given me. But that's not of your concern. They're just things of my studies and relics." And they kind of sneer at him, and they're not in like a mean way. They're just poking fun at him. As there is almost everything in this guy's lab has like this infinity symbol on it. So they say they start to head towards the exit, and they say, if you see anything weird, let us know. Then you know the drill. And they walk out the door, and he closes it behind him and says, "Have a nice day." And he closes it with you behind the door, and you kind of step out from behind it. What do you do?
Who was that?
Chrysalix looks at you and kind of has a smirk on his face and says, "Those are the guards of the order that patrols the Forbidden Forest. There is a reason that it's called the..." He chuckles and says, the Forbidden Forest. No one is allowed in or out of that forest. It has been an ancient order from the King of Neverwinter and all the kings from many lands around Faerun for centuries. No one has been allowed in or out, so obviously I have bent the rules on occasion and delve in, as many researchers have done, and that's where I found your body. Found you under a log. The trees seem to have fallen on you. I assume that's why you were passed out, but your armor and your clothing, they're of decades past. I'm curious as to what...
Get it, I'm old. Fuck off.
So he continues to tell you about the surroundings of where you were, and the armor and clothing that you had seemed to be of decades and centuries in the past, and is very curious as to why you were there. Obviously, you can't remember it. So he says that's what those guards are. That's where they're from. They're from the order of the king that were sent there, the king of the mountain that's near Neverwinter. He's been tasked by the orders of Faerun, where the kings all get together and decide what's best for the country as a whole. And they're from the patrol that patrols the borders of the Forbidden Forest. What do you do?
Well, it's like I want to ask why.
Just imagine yourself in the situation. Ask.
Well, I do.
Want.
Yeah. Okay. Why is the Forbidden Forest forbidden? Why are people not allowed to traverse the area?
God, I hate you so much. So, Chrysalix takes you over to the area where you were at the table. And it was like that circular area. And there's windows that kind of surround the... kind of look out over the vista. And there's a courtyard, and beyond that, the trees. And then far beyond, you can see the Forbidden Forest. So he kind of puts his arm on your shoulder, and as he's smirking as you're laughing because you're a fucking prick, and then takes you over to the windows, and kind of points out over beyond the horizon like Lion King, and he's like, everything the light touches is fucking bullshit. But he's
Is that how that movie went?
he looks out the window with you, and he points out to the west, west of the I shouldn't say true west, but west from where you're looking, so off to the left, and he sees, you can visibly see where like the tree line gets much taller, and he's like, where the tree line grows, that is the Forbidden Forest. The reason people are not allowed in the Forbidden Forest is for years ago. What? What is happening right now?
Nothing.
Okay.
Just don't pay attention to him, or we'll be here till fucking.
You're right. That's a really
This
good.
time
That's
next
a
Saturday.
life lesson right there. Don't pay attention to Jed.
Just put a curtain around. Just around.
You can
Lock
go in
me
that other
off.
room and play fucking PUBG or something.
So he points out towards where the trees get taller, and he says, "That is the Forbidden Forest." And the reason people are not allowed there is there was ancient stories of things that took place there regarding our Lord Mishkal and the struggle that took place. Where obviously, maybe I don't know if you heard the story of Baal. Do you know what happened centuries ago with the sealing of Baal and the turmoil that our world went through?
I told you I don't remember anything. The only thing that my only memory is waking up here.
I apologize. This is quite strange for me. This is most unusual.
You're obviously
Centuries ago,
not friends with
and-
Bill Cosby.
God.
Pow! Slap him right with a chicken.
He pulls a string and just quaaludes fall all over the place.
Oh, jeez, look at that.
So
One
he goes.
thing he clearly didn't forget was how to sell propane and propane accessories.
Only.
Good old Christopher. So he proceeds to talk about stuff that like Francis told you guys in the beginning about how Baal had reigned for centuries, and he was eventually the seals were rounded up, and then he was sealed away, and the world had prospered for centuries, and he pretty much tells you all about that.
Okay.
And then, so he goes on to tell you about that entire story, and he says the Forbidden Forest was the final resting place for some great evil that took place in the final battle. There's no one was there, no one knows, but you know that is where the final point of the physical manifestation that was the god of death, Baal, took place. The battle took place between him and Mishkal. Manifested on this earth and sealed Baal away to create the final seal that was Baal's fate. So pardon me for being suspicious of finding you in the Forbidden Forest and you being in rags and tattered cloth that were hundreds of years old. I hope you don't take offense to me pinning you down. We are quite curious as to what you were doing there. Whether it be you were unlikely hundreds of years old, but you being there or not, very suspicious. That's your answer.
I really don't know what to say to that.
Is there, just for my understanding of what's happening right now, is there two people that are with him?
No, it's just Chrysalix.
Why does he keep referring to we were?
Chrysalix was not alone when Christopher
Whenever
was
I was
found
found.
in the Forbidden Forest.
Okay. All right. That's
So-
what I was asking
So I-
because it kind of seemed weird that he kept referring to more than one person when it's just
No, that's fair. That's a good question.
fucking
Siri-
dicks.
I do.
Pieces of shit.
Siri, define context clues, please.
Siri,
up,
show me this man's
Christopher?
testicles.
Context
Well,
clues.
they're
Something Josh clearly doesn't fucking understand.
I don't.
Well, I wanted to ask a question to Chrysalix.
Okay, go for it.
So, Sea Dog, what is this place?
Sea Dog canon for this character.
I'm assuming at this point he's going to give me my name, so that's how I'm going to get Topher is because of me being a dick to him. So, but yeah, so I would ask him what is it? Was the place that we're in? Like, what is this? Like, what is it about? Like, what is it for?
Okay. So, you want to ask him? I mean, you just
Yeah,
kinda,
please, please.
So the place that we're in right now, I see all of these markings, like you mentioned Mishkal and Baal. Who are you? What is the purpose of this place that you brought me to?
So Chrysalix, he has like a slight smirk on his face, and he kind of looks around and says, he's like, that is a very interesting question. And he kind of points around and like looks at everything, and he's like, the symbol that you see is a symbol of the god of light, the god that I worship, Mishkal. Most powerful. Very, I don't know how to explain it, and I don't want to seem like I'm pushing the love for my deity on you. I just, I am what you would call a scientist, if that word makes any sense to you. I study the science and the religion behind my god and the magics and things that he imbues upon the people who follow him and are loyal to the faith that he gives to the beings of this world. The place that we're in is somewhat of an outpost for the reason of protecting the Forbidden Forest to be entered, which is how I was able to find you, per se. No one's gonna yell at someone whose guard it is to guard, say, Forbidden Forest, and you can tell as Christopher that he's not supposed to be there either. Mm-hmm. He kind of ventured in and was doing things he's not supposed to.
He said earlier that he would occasionally goes in and
right.
Does what he wants to.
That's what he's kind of hinting to is the fact that he found you on the predication that he wasn't supposed to be there, so he's trying to hide you because of that. So and now he knows that other people are attuned to the fact that you were found, and that's what these orcs were there inquiring about. So he says that this place is somewhat of an outpost that's meant for people whose job it is to guard and study the things that surround the Forbidden Forest, because there is some type of evil found there. There's some type of presence that is in these woods, and he goes on to explain that is the reason for this place. So as he is explaining this, and he's looking out over the Forbidden Forest through the courtyard, you see these orc individuals are walking away from the building and back towards the Forbidden Forest. And as you guys are talking, one of them looks back and sees the both of you in the window. Mm-hmm. Oh, shit. And then the other one, he says something to the other one, and the other one looks back, and this all happens in a split second, and they both see you. They see you standing there, and they see Chrysalix beside you. And they look up, and you see them both immediately realize that Chrysalix lied. And they take off running back towards you and then out of sight. So Chrysalix turns towards you and says, "You must go." And then he puts his hand on your chest and shoves you towards the door and starts to rush you out. And he throws you a necklace. And this necklace is a simple, small chain necklace, and it has the blue infinity symbol on it. And he goes towards the corner of the room. He grabs the armor and the shield and quickly suits up and then shoves you out the door. And you run down the hallway and off to the left, and you hide in a cubby hole at the end of the hallway where there's a rock inlet. And you kind of slide in it, and you hear people charging up the stairs and shoving doors open. And then you see them run into the room and start to yell and scream at Chrysalix. And they have their weapons drawn. And as they pass, go ahead and give me a perception check.
$16.
16? Okay.
Yeah.
So as they pass, you are standing the hallway. You are standing probably just a few feet outside the door that you just came from, in like a small cubby, and you can see the hallway that they were running through, but they're on a pretty defined path back to that room. So as they're on the way back, you see something that you didn't notice the first time that they were in the room, because you could only see them through like a small crack between the door. They're wearing somewhat of a necklace, and it's a large purple necklaces that like are hanging. It's not just a small necklace; it's a massive pendant hanging on their chests, and it has a giant purple gemstone in it. And on this gemstone is a silhouette of a head of a male, and has a giant golden lightning bolt all the way across the chest piece. And as they're running in, you notice this, and you don't think much of it. And as they get into the room, they ask Chrysalix, "Where is the other individual that was here with you?" And Chrysalix says, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then you hear the shlink of metal, swords being drawn from their sheaths. And obviously you know that they saw you. And you hear Chrysalix yell, "Run! Run!" And you take off running. And then from there, you hear, "By the order of Lokar the Malevolent, we order you to stand down." And you take off running down the stairs that you saw them in, out the door, and into the woods. So we slip back to the campfire. So Topher finishes telling his story, and you guys are all sitting around this campfire. It's late in the night, and there is not a sound. It is just been completely serious because you guys
hear a campfire.
I knew he was gonna say that.
I hate you guys. Like, I literally go to sleep thinking about how much I fucking wish you guys would just leave me alone and just. I just want to abandon this show completely. Sucks. All right, so you guys have all heard this, and you guys are all very. It kind of resonates with all of you because up to this point, you guys have seen Christopher be kind of very pensive and quiet, and you guys have seen him not be a part of the group quite a few times at this point. And it kind of makes sense as to why he's he volunteers for the first shift in the night. He doesn't sleep well. You guys have seen him struggle with things in the past. So Bartholomew, you hear this, and you were kind of drawn to speak next, and you start to talk, and we slip into your story.
Since it is my turn, I believe I should let you know that never once with another individual have I shared my history, my past. I have never once opened up to tell someone who I truly am. The only reason I am making an exception for you three is because of what we are going through. I believe that this is a different time. This is a coming of ages. This is a turning of chapters in the story of not only Neverwinter, but for all of Faerun. Topher, it is good to know that my past isn't the only past that can be unnerving. As you know, my first name is Bartholomew, and my last name is Ipsy. It may come as a surprise that a black dragon would have a last name of golden heritage, but it's all part of my past. I was snatched as an egg from my home clan, and I was raised and studied on by a golden clan elder who was secretly attempting to find a way to merge all dragonborn powers to create the ultimate dragonborn. Growing up a black dragon among a clan of Goldens For the most part, everything was normal, aside from a difference in skin tone. Occasionally, as youth, I would get intense desires to set flame to the clan armory, or to steal the Elder's pendant. It was nothing I ever thought worth mentioning because I was afraid to be punished. One day, during my adolescent years, myself and some of the Goldens from the clan ventured into the border forest where we were confronted by a great beast. Everyone died except me, although I really don't remember much of it. Upon returning to my golden home, I was shunned and outcast for my failure to protect my golden brethren, or so I assume. From that day, and as I aged from my teens into my late 20s, I survived on my own, traveling from village to town. When I was about 27 years of age, I met a golden dragonborn by the name of Weisswine. As we got to know one another, he confided in me some truth about my past. He was one of the golden adolescents that I had thought died long ago in the border forest. He told me of a wretched deceit of his clan elder and the story behind the kidnapping of me as an egg. Weisswine told me the elder's plans and his belief that the great beast in the border forest was a byproduct of the elder's experiments. A deep rage and desire to kill was mostly inert until this day. I could no longer suppress my rage. The next 6 years of my life was nothing but fruitless toil, attempted murders, and temporary imprisonment. The burning desire for revenge would bear no fruit. After surviving my sentence, I met a traveling priest. He took care of me. He brought me under his wing and he showed me the light. It was at this time, unlike most of the Paladin Order, that I sought to connect with my dragon god, to gain retribution for my turmoil, and to find solace in the fortitude of the Paladin Order by devoting myself to his word. That was about 25 years ago now. Since then, I have worked as a traveling entertainer, making quite a good living for myself. Between shows, I work out, aid locals in ridding their land of cursed spirits, and I pray to the dragonborn gods that the Golden Clan Elder will find his eternal punishment when he passes into the afterlife, at my hand or otherwise. It has been years since I've seen Weisswine. It has been decades since I've seen the Golden Clan Elder. Occasionally I will find myself wandering, lost in thought, at what could have been if my revenge could have been had. But never in my life have I ever looked back on the single day when I could have done something different. I know I did the right thing when I decided to leave.
You are standing alone in the middle of the border forest. You are cut, you are scraped, you are hurt, you are alone. You look around you, there are dozens of dead, brutalized golden dragons laying all around you. You recognize the faces and look into the eyes of the fallen that surround you. Many of these people you've called your friends, some of them your brothers, but none of them your allies. You think to your past of these people who have abused you and made fun of you for the color of your scales, how you were different than them, but yet the same. You were raised the same. You all knew the same clan elder. You all were put through the same training. You were all part of the same order, regardless of anything, regardless of whether you were golden or black dragon. You look around at the bodies that surround you of your kin. You think to the beast that destroyed them all, and the emptiness in the air catches up to you, and you breathing heavily and trying to figure out what to do next. You begin to walk slowly off back towards your clan, the clan of the Golden where you were raised. And you were just filled with such hate, such contempt for the way you were raised. You think of the times you were shunned, the times you were made fun of, the times you were pushed aside just because you were one who was different, yet not at all. As you walk the path for what seems to be days to the edge of the border forest and back towards where your clan resided, and you approach the edge of camp, and people start to take note that you're there. People are shunning you, and you get back to the tent of the elder, and you walk in, and the elder sits on the far side of the tent, not facing you, not aware of your presence. He's not concerned with whether there were 10 of you or 1 of you. And someone leans over and whispers in his ear as he turns and looks at you, and just with utter contempt and disgust. What is it you want? He doesn't know of what happened. He doesn't know of the destruction that has taken place, or what you've just witnessed, or what you're feeling. Neither does he seem to care. What do you say?
Sir, I believe I need to tell you of what has occurred.
Very well. Make haste. Many things to tend to, none of which concern you.
It is my brothers, my kin. We have lost many.
He kind of peeks up and looks at you. Do not think that anyone, no Golden will you consider a brother. No person of our Golden clan will you ever be equivalent of. You are dirt. You are scum. For our clan to be wiped out and for you to survive is just disgusting. And he turns his head and doesn't even acknowledge you, and just throws what you've set aside, as almost as if he only cares about the fact that the other golden dragons were decimated because you were the only one that survived. And he's disgusted by the fact that you're alive. And you know, through your childhood, you know that this individual was someone that poked you, prodded you, and experimented on you, and as you'd seen him do with many others that were imprisoned, you know, red dragons and blue dragons and other goldens and just many other miserable, bound prisoners that were just beaten and abused. And as you're standing there and he is disgusted by the sight of you, he turns his back and begins to read almost going back to just as if he had no care in the world, regardless of the dozens of his clan that were just wiped out. And someone who he had helped raise, regardless of whether he abused you or experimented on you. This was someone, you were part of that clan. You were born here. You were raised here. You turn and you walk away. And as you walk out of his tent, there's someone that approaches you. It's another golden, a woman, dragonborn, puts her hand on your shoulder and says, Bartholomew, are you all right? And you recognize this individual, Aisha, someone who you've been friends with, one of the only people who's ever treated you with respect and dignity as you were one of the better fighters, which was of no surprise to her that regardless of the devastation that you feel, and she felt for the other individuals who were attacked, that you were the one survivor. Bartholomew, are you all right?
Aisha, I must leave.
Aisha hangs her head and she kind of looks back and forth and looks up and says, I understand. There were many ways that I imagined you leaving. I'm sad it had to be this one. I only ask that you would reconsider, not because of what happened or the way that the Golden treats you, and I mean, you know as well as I do that it's not just you. Stay for me. Can you find it in your heart to stay for me? And she extends her hands and puts it on your shoulder, and you hearken back to the many nights that you and her have spent together, and how fondly you feel for this person. And that's what makes it all the harder for you to have to leave her, because regardless of how you feel for her, if a member of the Golden Clan were to abandon, you can't ask her to come with you. She'll be hunted for the rest of her life, as will you be. It's a sacrifice you're willing to make for you, but I imagine not for her. What do you say?
It has been many moons since we first met. It is no lie that we have grown quite comfortable with one another's presence. But today will be a new chapter. I will not forget you, but we must part.
Aisha's, you can't see her face. She's looking down, and she can't hide how she's feeling as she begins to cry. And she looks up at you, and as the tears brush down her golden cheeks, you lift your giant dragon hands, and as you wipe that tear away from her eyes, she looks directly into yours. And the moon shining off of her face, glistening off the wet portions her tears have trailed. She looks at you with a look that accepts the fact that you're leaving. I love you, Bartholomew Dipsy. And as you leave, do not forget me. And her hands connect with yours, and you feel something that she has placed in your hands. You look down, and as her hands leave yours, there's a necklace. And as you look down, it's the holy symbol of the Golden Clan. And if it was a gift from anyone else, this would mean nothing to you. But Aisha is one of the only people, one of the only dragons. Sorry. Aisha is one of the only dragons who has treated you with the respect and the honor that you have earned in this clan. She lifts her hands around your neck and places the necklace around you and clasps it. And she is in tears. As she turns and walks away, as your hand slips off of her shoulder, she rounds the nearest tent and falls out of sight. You turn to begin to walk away. What do you do?
As I now know I must leave, so I begin to head toward the entrance of the clan settlement to depart. But before I do, I kind of gauge the whether or not there's anyone that's really paying attention to me.
There's probably not.
Are you asking that as a question? Okay. So you look around to see if there's anyone, any guards, any other individuals that may be outside in the moonlight. And as you gaze around and look around you, there is one person, one dragon, obviously a golden, sitting aside his tent, also playing his lute. He slowly strums the strings. It's almost as softly as the moon is resting on him. And the light reverberates off the softness of the wood. It is slow, neatly stained. Such a reverent tune. Almost as if he's been watching you and Aisha this entire time. You don't get the feeling that he's prying. Just happened to be there as it happened.
I note that he is absorbed in the moment, and I begin to head to the clan armory.
Okay. So the clan armory is to the west. And as you start heading towards the tent containing all the weapons, as you approach, you notice that there's no one on guard, as there normally is. It raises concern for you, obviously, as you wonder why there would be no one guarding the clan armory. As there are countless invaluables and destructive weapons, as the Goldens, although they may be somewhat savage, are also very keen in the technologies of today's age, as the Golden Clan Elder is not one to be trifled with. You approach the clan armory. Appears to be no one standing guard. What do you do?
I look up at the moonlight. I gaze around me and note that there's no one nearby.
You can still hear the lute in the background playing.
I clench my fists tightly. I want to so bad. But instead I leave.
Bartholomew walks towards the door of the clan armory. One of the only constructs in the encampment with any kind of reinforced entrance. Extends his hands towards the giant iron ring to pull the doors open. And as he does, his hand lowers and he begins swiftly running from the encampment into the woods, into the night, leaving Aisha, the Golden Clan, and the horrors of his past behind him.
Michael, if you could record everything like this, I've noticed that if you do it like this and really emotional, Jed just shuts his fucking mouth. It's fantastic.
Bartholomew, you finish telling your story and everyone is tense. You look around and no one will make eye contact with you. They're very, very pensive, staring into the flame. The only thing you can hear is the fire cracking in the background and the random popping of the wood and the flame. Benedict.
The orphanage that I was dropped at was not a pleasant one. There was violence, cruelty, and intense training. Training to kill, each other specifically. You see, we were never adopted. We were sold to the highest bidder for a game. For the rich man's pleasure. And on top of all this, I was plagued by constant dreams. Every evening, dream after dream, the same thing over and over again. One day, I found out that I was sold. And I had to make my escape. So I left. I left the brothers that I'd made there behind. I had no idea where I was going. I had nowhere to go. I was in the wilderness for years.
You were shackled, chained to the wall, wearing nothing but a loincloth. Your back has been bruised and beaten, bloodied with a whip. Barely move without being in pain. It hasn't stopped you from trying to escape. All night you've been pulling on chains that have you shackled to the wall. And you look up at the moonlight. And your entire life, since you can remember, has been from one enslavement to the next. Whether it be an orphanage or a fighting camp or being sold into slavery. You know this is not what you were meant for. As you pull on the chains, you realize something. At what cost is this to you? What is pain if the life surrounding your pain lends to no furthering, no purpose? What is feeling? What is love? What is faith if it's all spent for you and not by you? Pull your hands back, not wanting or at this point caring, letting go entirely. You fall backwards. Make a strength check for me. Please tell me it wasn't a crit fail.
It's a crit
Actually, I can make this work. So we're gonna keep it going. Crit fail aside. You have all but given up. And you fall backwards. And the chains grab your wrists, stop you from falling, and you slide down, and your shoulder hits the dirt. Your shoulder goes above your head and pulls, and you're in great pain. But you have nothing. Nothing to lose, nothing to gain. Just want your freedom. So much to ask. Place your feet on the wall in front of you. Tuck your head between your legs. I hate you, Daniel.
What the fuck?
I hate you.
He didn't pay that close of attention. He was sitting fucking here in front of us.
I know, right?
He sucks his own dick.
You're sitting on the dirt, your head resting on your knees, and you just can't take it anymore. It's been what seems to be 20, 30 years of your life trapped in this hell.
You're literally talking about me. Proceed.
So you put your feet on the wall in front of you and you shove forward and kick off the wall and pull at your hands. Your thumbs snap forward, dislocating completely. Your wrists disconnect from your arms. You are in the greatest pain that you have ever felt in your entire life.
Do I not have hands?
You have hands, but you have just dislocated them and broke them to slip through your shackles. And you're free. This moment, as you muffle your screams, your eyes are watering, as you've never felt this pain. You reach down as you see your hands and completely useless. Wrists and thumbs both completely dislocated. As you place them under your foot and push them back into place, one wrist at a time, and then following your thumbs. And you make your way to the exit. But as you know, as you reach the end of the hallway, prior to your freedom, to your right and to your left, on either side of the hallway, there are two guards standing with their backs to you. You sit and you think, attempting to find a way to dispose of them both at once or get away unseen. What do you do?
I'd like to look around me to see if there's anything that I can pick up, like something sharp.
Okay, make a perception check.
It's going to be a 20, not a nat 20.
Hell yeah. You dab. You see where the guards are, as you can only see maybe their shoulders and elbows as they're standing out around the corner, just guarding as what would be the entrance from the outside. And you look around you for anything that can give you the upper hand, and you notice that there's a table. There's various papers on it. Nothing immediately sharp or that you could use to your disposal. Maybe a couple sets of keys or books, things of that nature. There are torches that are on the wall.
I want the torches.
All right.
I want to set them on fire.
There's a torch on the right and the left of this little alcove that's in the wall with a table in the hole with a chair So you take the torch.
Is there any oil or anything around?
There are just torches that have been pre-soaked, you can assume.
Yeah, okay. Maybe I should take a different approach. So are there ways for me to get behind them?
Their backs are to the wall outside of you. Like they're on the outside of the building that you're in. You're at the end of this hallway, and you can see like their shoulders and maybe their elbows as they're like holding post.
Yeah.
Like stationed outside of the walls. So you can see that they're there. They don't know you're there.
Are there any like writing utensils?
There
Maybe a calligraphy pen?
there is a pen and a feather quill.
Yeah.
There with the papers.
I'll take the pen.
It's not a pen, remember, it's a feather.
It's a feather. With a sharp end, right?
It
Not really. I can't
as
pierce
sharp
somebody's
as a
fucking
feather
throat with
can
it.
be.
That's a sharp feather you got there. Fuck it, I'll take the torch. And I want to light the papers, like that whole room on fire. And then I want to hide somewhere. Is there somewhere by the door that I can hide? So when they walk in, I can just boop.
I don't know if you can make that noise when you try to hide.
Touch him in the butt.
Beep, boop, boop.
So as you're looking around, you notice that there's various doors and things of that nature that are around the exit. You don't know where they go to. You've only ever known the fighting quarters and the slave pit and the areas that you're in now.
Okay.
You don't know where these doors go to, but maybe it's worth the risk for you to take.
Yeah,
to hide.
absolutely.
Okay. So you take the torch off the wall and you hold it under the table. It's a wooden table. And it takes a few minutes, obviously, but the wood ignites. The table begins to burn. And the papers atop catch flame, lending to the light. It's not that far away from where the guards smell the smoke and catch attention, and they rush in, looking around, and they run into the room on the left and come out with a linen, and they throw it over, and I thought they're attempting to put out the flame. You run out from where you were, hiding on the other end of the hallway, and you start to rush out. And as you realize there's another guard standing outside, there's a door to your right, and there's a door to your left. What do you do?
There's another guard standing outside?
Yep.
I want to run and Superman punch him.
Superman punch him.
Yep.
This guy's like 6.5 foot tall.
I'm 5 foot.
You're gonna run and jump and punch him.
Maybe in the chest, maybe in the dick.
Just gotta run and try.
Or let's see, where is he at? Like, is
So
he right by the
is-
door?
Yeah, he's standing by the door looking in. He didn't want to leave his post, but he definitely wanted to see what was going on
Yeah.
in the hallway. So he turned. So he's
looking through
If
the
you start
window
to
right
run
now.
out there, no, he's looking down the hallway. He's like at the end. So if you as soon as you step into the hallway, he is gonna be aware that you were there.
Okay.
So if you'd like to run and try to just like plow him over and get past him,
Yeah, or just like run through his legs. Just like crawl through his legs. Or hit him in the nuts real quick. Yeah. I want to like give him a swift hit to the nuts
okay.
with my fucking T-Rex.
Well, your hands are fixed.
They
Your hands are they still hurt. So you come out of where you were hiding and you just take off sprinting. This is your shot at freedom. It's your shot at a life that you never thought you would have. And 1 foot in front of the other, faster and faster, you take off. The 2 guards that are tending to the table don't notice you, but as soon as you step out, the other guard does. He says nothing, draws his weapon, and as he pulls a sword from its sheath and a shield from his back, you're already in the air, jumping towards him. You extend your hand forward, as you're going for the takedown. Make an athletics check.
22.
22.
Yes.
Your fist lands right in the throat of this guard. As your feet plant on his left leg and his body collapses in the middle, and you land on his chest. He is gagging, and you jump off of him. As you do, grasping his sword and cutting his throat.
Yes.
As you continue to leap through the air, land gracefully on your feet, and rush into the deep woods surrounding the encampment. You run for what seems to be hours, days, and you stop. Finally. The sun is setting in the sky. There's a river. It's flowing peacefully. So you can hear the water rushing over the rocks. The sound of a waterfall in the background. You've never heard anything this peaceful. You take it all in as you slowly step into the water. As you walk towards the waterfall and begin to shred what remains of your cloth you were wearing. Not wearing anything.
Free balling.
Naked.
You submerge into the water to clean your wounds. The water touches your chest and your neck as you submerge into the deep portion of the lake. And your eyes close as you float. You relax for the first time in your life. Your eyes close as your feet rest on the slippery rocks beneath your feet. As you raise slowly atop the water and float in the peaceful wake of the river. Your mind slips away to the dream that you can't forget. You awake suddenly on the shore in the sand, coughing water, unable to breathe right, slowly catching your breath. To someone standing above you, a woman, an elf, telling you, "Are you all right? Who are you?"
My name is Benedict. I'm an orphan.
She looks down at you and she sees your wrists. They've been shackled. There's no hair that grows around your wrists as you've been shackled your entire life. She sees the whips and scars on your chest and your back as you're laying there shirtless, naked. She's thrown a cloth over top of you. She says, "Fear not, for I have people who can make this right." And she extends her hand, and you put your hand around the cloth that's covering you and lift yourself off the ground. As you tie off this blanket that's covering your lower portions and turn it into somewhat of a cloth. And you walk with her as she leads you back through the weeds. And she turns around and stops and says, "You don't have anything to fear. Someone who's been trapped and locked up such as you have it's travesty. Come back to our people. Our leader is a kind leader, a man of faith, and a man of science, a man of his God, a just ruler. Tell him of what happened. Lokar will make this right. Hamilton, you've obviously been traveling with your brother for a while. You're aware of his story. And as he says this, you are pondering your own.
I spent my earlier years in an orphanage in the northern wastes of Faerun, and at a young age I was plagued by dreams at night that I didn't understand. I thought that perhaps it was a god trying to send me a message from the other side. So I spent time sifting through the religious texts of the orphanage, but to no avail, until one night one of my fellow orphans told me a story of an old god, a dark god, who, if I swore fealty to him, would bestow upon me untold knowledge. So I sought out this old god. I searched throughout the libraries of the orphanage, looking for a mention of his name somewhere within the books, but couldn't find a single one. So I expanded my search into the neighboring towns, searching and searching until I found a book deep within the dark reaches of a library. And inside of it I found his name, Cthulhu. I began to absorb all the language, every bit of it that I could, the darkness swirling within my mind and feeding an inner demon that I wasn't aware that I had even had. But it didn't bring me any closer to understanding my dream. And then, one night, awoken from a deep sleep, I was told by my fellow orphans that I was speaking in a language that none of them could understand, and that I had conspired with dark evils, and I was forced out of my home, out to roam the land by myself. It was several years after my brother had made his escape that we joined each other on our travels. And one night on this journey, we discovered that we shared very similar dreams, and while individually neither dream made any sense, together they told us a message from our mothers. It told a story of the dark man that was our father, a great wizard named Lokar the Malevolent. He had used a powerful spell to trick and seduce our mothers and impregnate them. For there was a ritual sacrifice that required 2 of his children, bore by different women, to be sacrificed in order to grant him some unknown power. When our mothers discovered the plot, they conspired together, and in a great battle, they managed to kill him, dying themselves in the process. But they had only succeeded in destroying his physical body, his soul retiring to the astral plane, waiting, gaining power, gathering followers, to one day return to our world and possess a new host.
We'd spent the majority of our time together hunting those followers. Slaying, killing, interrogating along the way, trying to find any information we could about our father.
We did this for years on end, gathering as much power as we possibly could, as much knowledge as we possibly could, killing every single one of them that we came across. Until, tucked away in a small town in the dark reaches of Faerun, we discovered the largest cell of cultists that we had ever seen. Dozens of them. We attacked, with the hope to capture one of them, but they fought back ferociously. The battle lasted for several days, until eventually there was one left, and we managed to capture him alive. After rigorous torture, he told us that several weeks prior, they had been given a warning, a message, to head to Neverwinter, every member that could go, to prepare themselves for the Sundering.
Your mind travels back. You were sitting on a small boat in the center of a lake. You're fishing for your dinner. And you're there with your friends. There are 2 other gnomes that you have made good companions with. And you are fishing for your guys' I should say group, the companions you're traveling with. It is late in the night. You've thrown your bait and your net, and you are sitting waiting to pull your guys' harvest. And Fernando says, "Feel like we've been out here for hours. Nothing has been on our nets for days. We're starving, and this waste of time. Why do we bother with this? This lake is as fruitless as my stepfather." The other gnome here with is just chuckles and smiles and says, "Well, guess we'll just go to another lake then," as he smirks. You're very aware that there are no lakes around. This is the only body of water for miles, and without food, you wouldn't be able to make it to the next river or lake or anything to catch food for you all. The individuals in your party that are harvesting for other sources of food are coming back with nothing. There's no farmable land, nor do you have time to farm. There's no wildlife that they've been successful in obtaining. You're starving and you're hungry, and everyone is solely relying on you for food. You and the individuals in the lake. What do you say?
Why don't both of you jump in the water and fish by hand? In about an hour's time, we'll either have fresh fish or we'll have fresh meat. One way or the other, it doesn't matter much to me.
Fernando chuckles and says, "Well, if I get in this water and drown, at least that'd be an end to this fucking misery." And then the other gnome speaks up and says, "I vote for that! Fernando, in the water you go!" And he shoves Fernando out of the boat. And this seems to be a common thing among you guys, because Fernando laughs and you guys are trying to make the most of the situation you guys are in. And as you guys are doing this, you hear a call from shore. There's a smaller gnome that yells, "Father! Come back! It nears night, and we miss you!" And you guys look back, and the sun is setting on the horizon, and there's a small gnomish child on the shore, and you can see tents and things as it goes back into the tree line, various lights and encampments and torches and campfires and things. So you guys head back to shore, and as you get back, you guys all dry off and carry back the very, very few fishes that you guys have caught back to your shore, back to your camp, and you make do with the food that you have. As you share your dinner, you share what little you have, you take none. As you feel not as the leader, but as you don't belong with this group. You approach the campfire as people are finishing and heading to their tents and their tenements, and you sit alone at the campfire. You can't sleep, you can't get rest, your mind is just racing over these dreams that you've been having. You sit there alone and you think, and you hear something talking. You can't understand it. Whispers. What do you do?
I mean, I guess I try to get a little bit closer to that and see if I can't listen in.
Okay. So make a stealth check.
Well, that's a crit fail.
Okay.
Super stealth.
So you hear something in the brush, good ways away from the campfire, and you get up and you start to tiptoe towards it, and you're kind of crouched down, trying not to make a lot of noise. And as you get closer, you step on a branch, and it snaps, and it scares you, and you fall over, and you quickly regain your composure. But as you do, you hear something just scurry away from where you're at. What do you do?
I go running after it.
All right. So you take off running right into the brush, and you just dive
Yeah.
right in, and you see a foot like narrowly disappear further into the brush.
I'm gonna Eldritch Blast it.
Well, it disappears.
Yeah.
So you just want to like Eldritch Blast where it was?
No.
Or you just want to keep chasing
No,
it?
I want to keep chasing it.
Okay. So you take off running after it, and you through the branches and over fallen trees and through brush, and minutes you're just like jumping through this stuff, and you're traversing the area. And you come to a clearing, and it's an open field. There's nothing. Weeds. Seems like a giant open circle. And as you're looking around and wondering where this individual you have been chasing is going, you look out in the middle of the field, and there is a pedestal. What do?
I want to go get on the pedestal.
All right, so you cautiously walk out towards the middle of this field as it's middle of the night. There's nothing but the moonlight surrounding you. As you look towards the pedestal, there is no one around it. There's a light shining off the top of the pedestal, creating what seems to be an ambiance of something on the pedestal. And as Hamilton approaches, he sees written on the front, also with a shining light, a language that he does not know, in an inscription that he does not understand. And as he approaches the pedestal and looks atop, there's a symbol that he's not familiar with. And as he reaches out, the light on the pedestal turns red as your hand touches it, transforms and opens into a skull beneath your hand. 9 droplets of blood raise from the light and encompass the skull. It raises from the pedestal and faces you. And you are staring in the face the sigil of the god of death that you are very familiar with, as it comes at you, and all you remember is darkness. This podcast has been brought to you by 13 Palm Trees Podcast Productions. Check us out online at 13palmtrees.com.
Get out of here, bro. Happy birthday, dear George. Benedict Pumpkin Patch. Happy birthday to you.
This is real gay and nice. Dick. I'm one.